to Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Hello.
Hey.
Oh, Jinx.
It's been a long time since we did Jinx. Is that still even a thing? Do kids do that?
Positive Gen Z has no idea what that is.
Right? Like, Jinx, you owe me a soda, or Jinx, you owe me...
they might know about jinxing as like, oh, don't jinx it.
Yeah, right.
But do they know about Jinx, you owe me a Coke? I don't think they know that.
I should ask my brother. He's my go-to for all Gen Z.
Like 21 or whatever. So he would know or not know.
At the time that we're recording, he is graduating from college on Sunday.
It's terrifying because he was 5 or something at our college graduation.
I'm like, I remember holding you in the hospital, and now you are going to be a college graduate. What is happening?
I don't like it.
Forever makes me feel old. But congratulations to Josh.
Welcome to the real world.
Welcome.
You're going to need this podcast.
I'll have to send him some select episodes when he's having his own quarter life crisis, as we all had. It's a rite of passage.
And if you're lucky, you get over it, and you don't keep having it at like 30 and then 35 and then 40 and on we go. But that's why some of us are here, is because we're having another crisis, and you can have a crisis at any age.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think the first person's having a crisis, so let's just read her question. Yeah.
Okay. Dear Krachel, the question, there's a short question and there's a whole explanation. Short question: true or false? Once a thriver, always a thriver. The reason I ask is because I've taken the passion profile quiz a couple of times over the years and always come out as a thriver. After reading the description, I was certain it described me perfectly. In fact, I didn't think any other profile sounded even a little like me. So I've been living my thriver life. But now I think I've morphed into a fire starter somehow. Is that even possible? I've never wanted my own business, and at one point I couldn't think of anything worse. But now I just don't want to work for anyone else. I want to do my own thing and be left alone. I'm tired of playing by everyone else's rules and having them dictate my time, my work, where I do my work. But I just don't know if I'm having some sort of revelation or if I'm acting like an emotional teenager throwing a tantrum because I've been dealing with so many assholes. I'm so sick of the assholes. After being burned badly by my last few jobs, I'm over it. I tried several jobs that promise the thriver lifestyle, but still don't fulfill me or allow me to truly work on my terms. But how do I know if I've actually changed into a self-employed trailblazer, or if I've just surpassed my tolerance for self-absorbed nincompoomps? Carley.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like there's an answer to the first question, and then there's like a Carley specific answer.
Yeah, of course it's possible for your passion profile to change, but that's usually because there was already underlying fire starter energy. And just over time, your values changed. And so maybe something that was more of a secondary desire became a primary desire based on your circumstances and your values and the things in your life that have changed. So yes, that's totally possible. These are not like binary things. It's a spectrum. It's a complicated spectrum because there's like 4 quadrants and there's like, overlapping or whatever. But I actually don't think you're a fire starter necessarily. So
that's not the vibe I'm getting from this.
No. I want to do my own thing and be left alone. I just want to sorry, I'm really tired and like just don't have it in me to be anything but blunt today. So that's fine. I'm just going to be myself. And I'm going to say, I want to do my own thing and be left alone. And I'm tired of playing by everyone else's rules. And I'm like, here's the thing. Fire starters still have to play by rules. Fire starters often are not left alone. Like, yes, you can do your own thing. Yes, it can be more on your terms. But if you think you're tired being a thriver, I just want you to realize there's a lot of exhaustion in being a fire starter too. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to do the grass is greener thing where you assume that all you're looking at is the good parts about being a fire starter and you're not focused on all of the downsides of being one, which is like, yeah, there might not be, a-holes telling you what to do all day long, but then there's like, well, where's my money coming from? And I don't like marketing, but somehow now I have to hack this system and I'm constantly wondering where's my next client? And like, that's exhausting too. So like, don't do that thing that people do in case you are doing it, where we romanticize something that we don't have and we forget that it too has an ugly underbelly.
I also think that, and we try to talk about fire starters in a way where this doesn't happen, but I think it still kind of happens, where fire starter becomes synonymous in people's minds with entrepreneur. And if you have always truly felt like a thriver and the fire starter profile never really resonated with you, but you feel interested in self-employment, that doesn't automatically mean I think I'm turning into a fire starter. There's plenty of thrivers out there who have their own business. It doesn't mean that if you want to work for yourself, you must automatically be a fire starter. It does mean if you are a thriver, which I very much feel like you are. I feel like you're kind of a burnt out thriver is really what I'm feeling. And a burnt out thriver, a thriver already doesn't want to work that much anyway and doesn't want a lot of responsibility and pressure. A burnt out thriver wants to quit everything and everyone and say, I want out of the entire system. So part of this honestly might just be burnout. But even if you recover from the burnout and you found a genuinely great thriver job for you and it still didn't feel right and you still wanted even more flexibility, you could still be a thriver and say, I want to start my own business. Now, that would look incredibly different than a fire starter starting a business. The type of business, the structure of business, the amount of energy you put into your business, the people that you might have supporting you or the systems you have supporting you would look really different for a thriver because you don't want a ton of responsibility and pressure. And a fire starter, they can deal with a lot of they want the responsibility. They can deal with a lot of pressure and a lot of risk. So they're going to be looking to start a different kind of business than a thriver. Thrivers tend to really love passive income type businesses where they don't have to necessarily show up and perform a service all the time. Sure. Or a product or something that they don't.
Yeah, but building that is hard as fuck, just to let you know. If everyone could do it, we would all just have a stream of income and then sleep all day and go to the beach. Like it's not easy to do that.
I also think that a thriver might be interested in something that's like a longer term contract if you want more flexibility and freedom, where technically you're your own boss. Yeah. But you have a year-long contract that you're working on and you have some say over your schedule, but you're not worried about where money's coming from for the next year, or something where it might look a little bit closer to being employed by somebody else, but there's more freedom than a W-2 full-time salaried job. So I just want you to be open to possibilities and recognize that the grass is not always greener, and get super clear on what do you need as a thriver, because I'm really getting thriver vibes from this.
Also, Carley, if you haven't listened to my interview, my normal person interview from May with my former client V, go back to May and check that out, because she is someone who sort of combined the best of the thriver world with the best of the fire starter world and was able to work on her own terms in a way where she still has stability, but she has a lot of flexibility and autonomy. So to answer your last question, Am I a self-employed trailblazer, or have I just surpassed my tolerance to, deal with self-absorbed nincompoops? I think it's the latter.
I think it's the latter too.
I think that if you weren't working with self-absorbed nincompoops, you might not be feeling like this. And that's the test. That is the test, okay? The test is, if I was working with really great people, would this still be chafing at me? Because guess what? If you're a real fire starter, you could be working with the perfect people under the perfect conditions and still be mad as hell that you are there. And if that's not you, you're probably just a thriver who's burnt out on stupid people. And that's fair.
Mm-hmm. The telling point for me is when you say, I just don't want to work for anybody else. I just want to do my own thing and be left alone. A fire starter would have a very different impetus for starting a business. They would be like, I have this vision and I have this fire in me that I have to like create something, or I really have this thing that's drawing me toward it, versus I'm tired of this. I kind of just want to be left alone. That to me rings very much of burnt out thriver.
Yeah. So I think the real work here is like, you don't have to keep working in jobs that promise things that don't deliver and with nincompoops, but your next assignment, should you accept it, might be learning how to identify red flags and nincompoops ahead of time, which I know is sometimes hard, but it is possible. And there are plenty of people who have thriver jobs in like decent cultures where people leave them alone. Like that is a thing. And if you're like, I have literally no idea how to do that or get that, then that might be something you need to like talk on a deeper level about.
And I also would recommend talking to some people who have started businesses to get the real view of what does it take? What is the real life?
Or freelancers, if it's not like a business per se, like whatever it is you're thinking you being in a fire starter mode would look like, do some recon.
Because I'm very aware of the tendency when you're burnt out to fantasize a little bit about a whole different reality. Like, what if I did this? Or what if I just quit this and did my own thing, whatever. And in your fantasy of what that other reality looks like, you're not always seeing it in full. But the more stories you can hear of people who are doing a version of what you think you might want to do or what your fantasy looks like on the outside, hear them tell you what it's really like. And you might say, okay, that's actually kind of cool. I have a feeling, though, you're going to probably say, ew, I didn't think about that part and the instability and the huge amount of effort that you put at the beginning and not getting paid for a while when you're getting started. And a lot of the parts of starting a business that a true thriver probably would find pretty off-putting. So just get the real picture and filter it through your internal intuition.
And start asking yourself, in hindsight, what are the red flags that a company has nincompoops ahead of time? Like, could I have known this? Like, in hindsight, in the interview, were there any red flags? In the job descriptions, were there red flags? Like, you getting good at noticing the patterns and the themes and the trends and learning how to ask the questions of like, is your culture like this or is it more like that? Like,
maybe doing some informational interviews with people at that company who you're not officially interviewing with, where they can tell you the real deal, right? If possible.
It might be that you need to get good at vetting, and then you won't have to work for nincompoops, and you can still be a thriver. Best of both worlds. Okay, well, we hope that helps, Carley. Let us know. On to question number 2. This one's a little shorty. Dear Krachel, I recently took a huge risk by leaving my very well-paid job for a new opportunity, but I'm now 3 months in and I have huge regrets. I absolutely can't go back. So how do I keep my focus on my new path, even though I can't stop thinking about my old company? That is from Courtney.
Oh, Courtney, I know that's a hard position to be in when you take a leap of faith and then get into a situation and realize, ew, I don't know if that's what I was expecting. So there's a few things, because this is a short question, there's a few things that could be going on here because we don't have a ton of backstory. So first of all, there's a decent chance, and this happens sometimes, you have an opportunity and it sounds awesome and You go for it, and then the reality does not turn out the way it was explained to you. And sometimes there's a difference between what you were expecting and what the reality is, and that can be pretty intense. So I don't know if that's the situation. Maybe you got in and you're like, oh, not what I thought I was getting into. Uh-oh. In which case, okay, there's kind of like one course of action. One way we can deal with that. Sometimes though, you leave something, and then the sadness that comes from leaving something can make you look back with some rose-colored glasses. So I don't know if that's going on. Maybe the new job is actually perfectly fine, pretty much what you expected. But now in retrospect, you're remembering all the good parts about your old job, but you're not remembering the reasons why you left in the first place.
Kind of like a breakup.
Exactly.
Where you will do this with your ex-lovers. You will look back and be like, you'll romanticize it. And then you'll kind of forget that they were a jerk to you sometimes, or that they didn't really know what they wanted or whatever. And I'm over here like, there must be a reason that you left.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, depending on which situation you're in, I have some different thoughts. So if you're in the situation where you're just looking backward and remembering the good stuff, that is a cue for yourself that you might need to reality check yourself and truly put yourself back in the day-to-day experience of that last job and ask yourself, if I could, I know you said there's no way to go back. I don't know the circumstances. I don't know if that's 100% true or not. I'm going to go with your word on that. Even though there's no way to go back that you can see, if you could put yourself directly back in that job and nothing changed from when you left, would you really want that? Nothing else is different. You're in the exact same situation. How would you feel in 6 months? Would you really be glad that you did that? I don't know. But that might be an interesting reality check for yourself of, oh, yeah, there were some things that were not quite right. And I would be super annoyed about blank, or I would go right back into feeling trapped in this way, or whatever it is that wasn't making you feel so satisfied in the old job. Those things would come back if you gave them another 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, to make this about relationships, let's say you leave a boyfriend because you're like, it's fine, but it's not great. And I'm scared, but I also need to know about this other thing. And I need to, I need to find out, or else I'm always going to regret it. I've been kind of feeling stale about this, and you leave. And then the new person, which I'm never a fan of leaving one person for another person. I say leave one person for your damn self. But whatever.
Amen.
You get into a new relationship, and it is not what you expected. And this person is an a-hole. But this person, I don't know, is not at all. Their behavior changes like 3 months into the relationship, and now you're like being gaslit or whatever. Okay. It's bad. Now you start being wistful about your old relationship. Do you really need to go back, or do you need to move forward?
Yeah, I feel like you're thinking of it as option A, old job, option B, current job you just moved into.
There's option C and D and E and F and G here.
The answer is not, I have to go back to A because I regret B. The answer might be neither one is the right fit.
What if there's something that's better than A and B?
And that's kind of my thought process, even if you are in the first scenario I described, where maybe you took this job and you thought it was one thing, and then you got into it and realized that is not what I was promised. This is not what I expected. I don't like this nearly as much as I was hoping. The answer still probably isn't, I have to go back to where I was. The answer is probably, can I take what I learned about what I like and don't like from the first job? And can I take the experiences I'm having now, which is going to give you a whole lot more information about why this does not feel right, and use that to clarify what option C
or
should
D
be
or
for
E
you.
or F.
Right. Or on and on and on.
Yeah. Why are we looking back when we could be moving forward is the real question here. And I have another thing I want to add, which is that I understand how easy it is to regret and to get hung up on like, I did the wrong thing. And I know you might not want to hear this, Courtney, but like, I don't believe in doing the wrong thing. I don't believe in relationships that were a waste of time. I don't believe in jobs that didn't serve a purpose. I believe that you can find the meaning and the lesson if you give it enough time and perspective and patience and hindsight, because sometimes you might not know it while you're in it. You are always going to be able to connect the dots about why that ultimately probably served you or set you up for something else. So like this could be a setup for something better. And often the setup for something better looks like chaos and looks like regret. Like I love Armchair Expert, the podcast. I love listening to Dax. And he talks all the time about how he tried to direct like multiple movies and like it was like a stream of like not doing well at the box office. And, you know, the last movie he directed, which was like over a decade ago or whatever, it didn't do well. And he was like, my career as a director is now over. Like, I can't do this anymore because I am not successful. And by all accounts, that looks like terrible. That looks like you're having a terrible time. But because he had all this time and space, he and, you know, Monica, his co-host, decided to start this podcast. And it's like, changed his whole life. And he said it's his favorite job he's ever had. And also it happens to be like one of the most popular podcasts, like consistently for the last 5 years. I don't even think that part matters to him so much as it does just like, I love getting to do this. And like, this is so much better than directing ever was. But like, when you're in the position of like, my movie just failed and like, I'm a shit director and no one wants to hire me. And like I'm embarrassed for myself. You're not going to see the setup for what was really happening. And so I'm like, can you zoom out and find some sort of perspective or trust that like, oftentimes this crap is a setup for something better.
Well, and on the way, or the setup, I will just, to go off your analogy there of it's a setup, usually the setup requires you to have some contrasting experiences. And by that, I just mean a contrast from what you truly want, which is incredibly clarifying, illuminating. It helps you be able to identify and pinpoint and detect what you really want. But when you're in the middle of a contrasting experience, it can feel like you did something wrong or you made a wrong choice or that things are going off track. But the contrasting experience is part of the setup. You kind of had to do that. If life was just, you just keep getting all the things that you want in the way that you want them at the time you want them, you never had the contrast of, I'm having an experience that I don't want. There's not the same level of deep appreciation of what's on the other side of the setup when you really land the thing that feels aligned. So a contrasting experience does not mean you did anything wrong, is all I'm saying. It's a direct route to clarifying what it is that you do want. And both of your experiences, your last job and this job, are part of that setup. And they were probably contrasting experiences in different ways. There's things that were not quite right at either one, or else you wouldn't be questioning the way you're questioning right now. So if you can use those as a clarifying experience instead of trying to make yourself wrong for finding yourself in that situation, that's how you more quickly move to the other side. So I understand the feeling of regret. I understand the like, I wish I could take it back. But when you see all the picture, all the dots connect at the end of the setup, you're going to be like, oh, thank God. Thank God I didn't go backward, because look what's forward.
Yeah. Turn your head to the future. That sounds like I was trying to quote something or sing something. I wasn't. I'm just saying, you got to turn your head from looking back and we got to look forward.
This is not an A or B decision.
No.
There are infinite options.
A C, if you will, of options.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Thanks.
Yeah. So no need to go back to A, even if you could. Okay. Let's move on to question 3. Dear Krachel, I don't get it. I love it when things come easy to me. I don't like the unknown. Welcome to the club. Oof.
Yeah, seriously.
Responsibility gives me a lot of stress. I hate conflicts. I procrastinate when things are hard. All I want is a lot of free time for thinking, enjoying music, or playing games. And yet, at work, I keep poking into issues that need solving instead of enjoying I finished in 2 hours when you expected a week's worth of work from me. So now I can spend my time doing fun stuff or stuff that really matters to me. Or I'll leave a voluntary project as soon as I helped them through a major hurdle just to find another hard thing to do or another group to help instead of enjoying the results of my struggles and having some time off that I crave. Why do I do this to me? I did the quiz and I got Thriver and resonate with it very much. So why this mismatch? That is from Eva.
A childhood trauma. That is the answer to that question. In
Guilt?
2 words. Yeah.
Shame?
Guilt, shame.
Imposter syndrome?
Having an insecure attachment style where you have a childhood blueprint that says, in order to prove that I'm worthy and lovable and likable, I have to constantly look busy and be helpful. If I'm not helping people, I'm not valuable and I'm not safe. So in order to stay safe, I have to help people and I have to look useful. Mm-hmm. Any of that resonating with you, Eva?
Or you might feel like, I want all this free time, but I don't know if I deserve it. I don't know if I've earned it.
Also childhood trauma. I mean, it all gets back to that. Please go listen to our book club episode from March. Was it March? Was it that long ago? It was. No. Yes, it was March. Why am I asking you? You don't know. Yeah, it was from late March. Our bonus book club, Good Inside Dr. Becky Kennedy. Please listen to that. I think you might need to hear it if you haven't already. But yeah.
In addition to that.
But also go back to listen to our side chat from last month where we talked about attachment trauma and how it shows up at work, because I feel like this is a really good example of that. So if you haven't, go back a few weeks and listen to our side chat from May.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what do you do now? Because we can't solve all your childhood traumas right now in the next few minutes.
No, but we've worked on this type of stuff before. We have ideas.
Yes, we always have ideas. Just
well, don't overpromise.
We always have words. I'll give you that. We always have words.
Thoughts,
words, ideas. First of all, I want you to ask yourself, what am I afraid of if I just worked those 2 hours and got all the work done I needed to in the week and then didn't do anything else? What am I afraid would happen? Because there's probably some fear that is hiding underneath of that's propelling you to take action and seek out more work to do or other people to help. And I don't know what the fear is. It might be, I'm going to get found out and they're going to realize I'm not doing enough and then I'm going to get fired. Or it might be, if I actually had all of that time, I think I know what I would want to do with it, but I don't even know what I would do with it. Maybe it's a fear of, it's like, I want to just sit and like swim in my own thoughts, but what is going to come up? I don't know. That could feel really scary. There's a lot of different fears that might be underlying the impetus to reach out for more work when you really don't want to do more work. Mm-hmm. And until you answer that question, you don't know what work to do. You don't know what to focus on. But once you figure out what the fear is, it's a lot easier to look back and say, where did that come from? Did that come from my family? Did that come from society at large? Did that come from a past experience that I had that I'm afraid is going to replay itself? And that can help you detach from it to some degree, just by even recognizing, what am I afraid of? And where did that fear start? Because it's probably not a brand new fear. It's probably one that's been playing out for a while. And this is just the latest manifestation of it.
I have a client who reminds me of Eva in that she often, she's going to laugh if she hears this, she'll know it's about her, is just like, why do I do this? Why am I like this? This makes no sense. Because in those moments, she's her adult self talking. But in the moments where she's frozen with indecision, or she's procrastinating hardcore, or she's overwhelmed by something that seems insignificant, she's not her adult self. She's showing up as her child self, as the self who got certain messages around what it means to be productive or acceptable and likable. And that person feels inadequate and incapable of dealing with an adult job. And so there's always this clash. And I've sort of had to tell her, stop asking, because you know the answer. Like, it's not actually kind to yourself to keep going, why do you do this to yourself? Because that actually just kind of sounds like more shame and more layering on of frustration. So for her recently, she had this new thing, like this new work assignment come up, and it was triggering her so much, even though logically it was really easy and it wouldn't take her that much time. And she was avoiding it so hard, and she was so mad that she was avoiding it and she couldn't figure out why. And we very quickly coached around it and got to the bottom that, oh, it's because it's new. And things that are new and uncertain really trigger her, because historically, like, her blueprint is like, if you are faced with something new, you might do it wrong and then you might get in trouble, or, you know, you might fail, and that's not acceptable. You have to like do it right the first time. And so there's all this pressure and fear built up around trying something new. And so new things really bring out this response. And so the answer is not, now that she knows that, she just has to go do it. The answer was, okay, how much newness can you tolerate at once? And it was so, I think she felt like we had to work through the fact that it felt silly to be like, can you just do 15 minutes of this and then you can be done for the day? Like, can you exposure therapy kind of like yourself a little bit higher and a little bit more until it gets more comfortable? Because even if it doesn't logically make sense that you like shouldn't be triggered by that, it actually does on an emotional level make sense that you are triggered. And so can we be kind and work up to your ability to tolerate higher and higher and higher levels of like newness? And so for Eva, I'm like, we might have to start there too. Like, okay, so maybe you can't start with like 2 hours of work and then 6 hours of nothing. Like, it's okay if we backtrack your way into 2 hours of work and 6 hours of nothing by, can you take on one fewer project this week? Can you take 30-minute longer break than you normally would have? Like, can you baby step your way into it and get more and more accustomed to the fact that the world is not going to end when you don't help people all the time? Like, but you might need to prove that to yourself in doses rather than all at once.
Yeah. What you said, I just want to like really emphasize the part of when you have the question in your own brain, why do I do this? Why am I doing this? Why do I keep doing this? The implication under the question is something's wrong with me. Something's broken in me.
Yeah.
And so the answer to that question is always unhelpful. So if instead of asking the question, what is wrong with me? And why do I just keep doing this? I don't want to keep doing this. If instead you recognize, I'm just repeating a pattern. I have a habituated way of being at work or being in certain circumstances. If that's all it is, it's just a habit of behavior that started a long time ago, then nothing is broken in you. It makes perfect sense why you are doing what you're doing when you look backward. Now your job is creating a new habit. And new habits do not get created overnight, and they do not get created usually in one fell swoop. You have to work your way out of one habit and into another. So what Rachel is saying about where can you stretch yourself in little ways and then build off of that, that's how new habits are formed. That's how new behavioral patterns are formed, not by a light bulb moment and then you instantly change your behavior from then on out. That's not how it goes. So yeah, I want you to challenge yourself to, right before you're about to hit send on that email, to ask, hey, can I help your team with blah, blah, blah? Just take a beat. Be like, do I really want to send this email? Maybe just wait an hour before you send it.
Yeah. Can I like breathe through the discomfort and the like contractions literally that are likely going to happen when you don't immediately hit send?
So build in those moments of pause before taking action, and as much as possible, right? Sometimes you're just going to do it and then you're going to kick yourself, and that's fine. That's part of building awareness of an old habit and the new habit you want to create. But don't be hard on yourself for the fact that you're doing this, or for the fact that you're not instantly changing and basking in all of the time right away. It might be a little bit of a gradual process, but how fun is that going to be to be like, how much more freedom can I get this week? How much more time can I collect for myself this week? It can be kind of like a game. You said you like games. Make it into a game. How can I expand my free time a little bit more each day or each week? That is going to feel more doable. And it doesn't have to be any kind of a reflection on you or anything that you're doing wrong. That's not what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear how that one goes. I'm always in favor of people reclaiming their time.
Yes.
Take back your time.
Please. For the love of God. It's the only resource you can't get back. I mean, there's other things we can't get back, but like you can make more money. You cannot make more time.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time back. Okay. Well, if anyone who submitted a question here wants to update us, please email us at contact@clarityonfire.com. If you've ever asked us a Dear Krachel question before and you haven't updated us in a while, we'd love to hear it. Email us. Leave us a comment on this if this one resonated with you or you have strong opinions. There's a link in the show notes for where this episode is on our site where you can leave a comment. And we will be back next Friday with
a normal person interview.
One of my very favorites and such an illustrious hall of normal people, a shining star,
which is truly
hung in the heavens among our normal people next week. So I really can't wait for you to hear it. It's going to be such a good one. So please come back next Friday for a new normal person interview.
With that teaser, I trust that they will.
I think they will.
We'll see you next week.